Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the new MacBook Pro. This is the 15-inch version that will be replacing my daily driver laptop, which is a MacBook Pro from 2012. I've been using this same computer for the last 4.5 years. It has pumped out about 80% of the videos on this channel. It actually built this channel, so it was a very good investment at the time, and I figured I would do it again because I need something a little faster, and this one will get us there. And I'll be taking you through all the different things that it can do, including its new touch bar that you can see in operation here right now as well. So we'll be exploring that in some further detail later in the video. I do want to mention, in the interest of full disclosure, that I purchased this with my own funds, so all the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, and no one is reviewing this content before it is posted. All right, so let's get into the hardware now. This is something that you can custom configure on Apple's website, and I did do a little bit of that. So this one has a 2.7 gigahertz quad-core Skylake i7 processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM. That RAM, though, is not upgradable, and it's only DDR3. So I think what's going to happen here, if not already, is you're going to see Windows laptops that are more powerful on paper than this one is going to be, but they don't run Mac OS. And if you're like me and have a lot of Mac-dependent applications that you use for your job, then your only choice is to go with this. It's going to perform fine, but just know there will be faster Windows laptops out there, especially for gamers. I did put in a higher-end GPU on this one, the Radeon Pro 460. It's got 4 gigabytes of video RAM. It's a lot faster than what's in my 4.5-year-old MacBook, and you'll see the differences on that in a second. I got a 512 gigabyte SSD on here. It is crazy fast. You can see on this benchmark that I ran, 1.8 gigabytes per second on the writes, 2 gigabytes per second on the reads, so very, very fast solid-state drive built into this thing. Really quiet fan on it, too. I was transcoding some video earlier, and my other one was right next to it. You could really hear that fan going. This one is quiet. It is very, very quiet, even when it's under load. So they've done a lot to make it less noisy, even when you've got a lot of stuff going on inside of it. It's also a little lighter than last year's model, too. So it's about 4 pounds versus about 4.5 pounds. 1.83 kilograms if you are a metric follower. The old one was 2.04 kilograms, so they definitely got some weight shed off of it. It is a little smaller, too. I'll take out my old one here and put them side by side here so you can get a feel for what the new one looks like versus the old one. So you've got a little less volume on this one here, although the screen size is the same. So they must have gotten a little tighter on the bezels and maybe some of the casing to get this one a little smaller and lighter, which is a nice thing. But for me, actually, performance is more important than looks, but Apple always likes to make them thinner and lighter, so that is what they did there. Now, battery life on this new one is about the same as it was before, about 8 to 9 hours, provided you're not doing anything all that taxing. Once you load up Final Cut Pro or do something that may require the GPU to kick in, you'll see that battery life drop quite a bit. So typically what it does when you're just browsing the web is that it actually runs off of the integrated Intel graphics, and then it switches over to that GPU when it needs it. Now, this one runs about $2,899 as configured. So I know a lot of you come to this channel to watch videos about $300 or less PCs. This is not one of those, but for me, I need something that works and works all the time. And after 4.5 years of very great performance out of the old one, I was very eager to get a new one just because I had a lot of good luck with it, and I really built my business with one of these computers, and that is why I use them. Now, this new one has the same screen size and resolution as before, so it's 15.4 inches, 2880 by 1800, but of course you've got the Retina scaling going on, so there's a couple of virtual resolutions you can run it at. The display is a lot nicer than it was last time, so it's sharper, better color. It really does look noticeably better than it did before. I was quite pleased with how nice the display is on it. What's interesting, though, is that the virtual scaled resolution they run at comes defaulted at 1680 by 1050. The prior edition defaulted at 1440 by 900, and actually 1440 by 900 looks better than 1680 by 1050 looks, especially when you're looking at smaller text on the screen. So I actually prefer to run it kind of at a larger resolution unless I need more screen real estate. But of course, your mileage will vary on that one, but take your pick. You can scale it in the settings here to get the screen size that you're looking for. So you can pop in here and then just run the scaling higher if you need a little more screen real estate. But again, I like the way the text looks at the lower resolution. Now, this can drive 2 5K displays externally plus the internal display, or you can run 4 displays, 4096 by 2304. So the GPU in here has got a lot of horsepower, primarily to just drive displays, maybe not so much for gaming, as we'll take a look at in a little bit. Now, if you've been following development of this computer for some time, you're probably concerned about the keyboard because, as you can see, it looks very similar to the keyboard on the 12-inch MacBook that I use quite a bit as well. And this keyboard took some getting used to because the travel on the keys is very shallow. It doesn't go down that far when you push it. The keys are very stiff as compared to other Apple laptops. And the MacBook Pro feels very similar to that keyboard. So for me, there wasn't much of a learning curve with it because I've been using this similar keyboard for the last year and a half or so, but it actually feels better on the MacBook Pro because they've made some improvements to it and it has better travel than that other keyboard does, but it still will feel a lot different than the MacBook Pro you're probably used to, because this is probably the first big keyboard change on these devices in maybe 10 years or so. So very different keyboard, but I think you'll get used to it, and it is better than the 12-inch MacBook keyboard. The trackpad is great on here. Even though it's huge, it does not pick up your wrist when it's resting on it. So you can see I've got my hand resting on it right now, but I am able to move the mouse around here and click, and it's not guessing incorrectly as to what I'm trying to do on here. So my gestures work here, and I'm able to click on things and jump back and forth even if my wrist is resting on it. So they've done a nice job with that. And also, like the other trackpads from Apple these days, this is not mechanical. It's completely solid state. So when you push down on it, it's detecting the pressure, and then it's got a little thumper motor underneath it. They call it the haptic engine or something that will make it feel like you're clicking on it. And it's a fun thing to do, is to take this over to people that aren't familiar with this technology, tell them to click it, and they will be convinced that there's a spring underneath there, especially when you push a little bit harder. You can actually feel some depth to the clicking, even though it's completely an illusion. They have really done a great job with these trackpads, and I really like them quite a bit. Now, one of the big controversies on this device are its lack of ports. There's only 4 of them, and they're all the same. They are USB Type-C / Thunderbolt 3 connectors. They work with USB or Thunderbolt. You got 2 on this side, and you got another 2 on the other side, plus a headphone jack, because if they got rid of the headphone jack in this product, people would have probably rioted, so they played it safe. Now, these ports are very versatile because in addition to doing the USB and the Thunderbolt data connectivity, they can also carry power. So you can plug your power cable into any one of these 4 ports and get the laptop charged. It will also output video with a dongle, which you'll need to get for HDMI or DisplayPort or something like that. But you can plug that dongle into any one of these ports and get the video output through it. So very versatile in that these ports are truly universal. They do just about anything that you might have wanted to do. The problem, though, is if you have a monitor plugged in and power, you've gone from 4 ports to 2, and that is certainly a less available port option than you had in the prior version. So that's my biggest gripe with it, is that it really is a loss of functionality, in that if you have a bunch of things plugged in, you'll probably need to buy a dock or something to be able to restore what you had already built into the old one. I'm not as concerned, though, with device compatibility. So these are USB Type-C ports after all, and they will be compatible with USB devices. So you probably have a bunch of external hard drives that have a connector that looks like this on them. And there are cables on Amazon. I bought a bunch that should be here in the next couple of days that we'll test out here on the channel. They cost about $5 or $6, and they will take this connector and give you this connector on the other end, so you can just plug it right into that USB port and continue using your card reader and external hard drives like you did before. So you don't need as many dongles as you might think you might need, but you will definitely need something to connect up to the display of your choice. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing I wanted to show you was the power adapter. So this is the power adapter. It looks like the old one. Now, on the prior version of the MacBooks, you would get, in addition to this little prong here on the end, you would also get an extension cable that you could swap out. So you could take this end here and just pop off these prongs and pop this cable in. You don't get this extension cable anymore with your $3,000 laptop, which is kind of crazy. They charge you like another $10 or $15 to get something that you used to get for free with your other $3,000 laptop from Apple. So I don't know why they are limiting your cable options, but if you want that extender like you had before, you can take it off your old power connector or have to buy a new extension cable because you're not going to get one in the box. Now, the big new feature on the MacBook Pro is the Touch Bar, and its most useful feature is the fact that you can now unlock with your fingerprint, similar to what you would do with an iPhone, which is pretty cool. The rest of the stuff is interesting, but maybe not all that useful to me, but I'll show you how it works anyhow. So you can see now I've got my cursor in a Safari window, and it's brought up a bunch of icons here at the bottom, quick links to different things. So if I wanted to go to Apple's homepage, I can tap on the Apple icon here, and it will bring me to that shortcut. I can also navigate my tabs here on the bottom as well if I wanted to do that. And you can see now that I'm on a YouTube page here, I can hit play down here and adjust the playhead to different parts of the video. So things change based on the context of the application, which is pretty cool to have that functionality available to you, and different apps do different things. And of course, right now, most of the Apple apps are the ones that do most of the stuff with the Touch Bar. I'm sure that will change as more developers get into line with this. What's cool is that if you're in the terminal application here, if I type in, for example, Pico, my favorite little editor, I can then tap on this little icon on the Touch Bar and get a man page for it. So I can get all the documentation for that command just by tapping that button there on the Touch Bar. So a lot of surprises will pop up at you as you're working on things. I'll pull up a text thing here and just start typing some stuff in here, and I'm typing sideways, so it's kind of hard to do, but you'll see here on the bottom that you get the iPhone feature where you can have the words just pop up as you're typing things out. So you have some similar things you might see on your iPhone here in the Touch Bar, some suggested words that you can type in as you're working around on things. Final Cut Pro also does some cool stuff too. So you can see here I've got a video project loaded up. This is my weekly wrap-up from the other day, and I've got some basic commands here that I can use. I can also get access to my timeline and make it larger or smaller here and navigate around just by dragging my finger across that there. So you do have some interesting features, and I think this is something that as more developers start thinking about how to make use of this Touch Bar, I think we'll see more things coming in the future. For me, it's not the reason I bought this. I really bought it for performance, but it is a cool thing, and I'd like to see what people do with it moving forward. Now, performance is where I thought it would be, actually. I'm not blown away, but I am getting what I expected, which is the ability to edit multi-camera 4K files here without the computer completely bogging down. So I'm able to get a lot of things done on this laptop that I was normally doing on my 5K iMac. So that was a nice improvement. Video exports out of this device compared to my other one were a lot faster. So I took the weekly wrap-up video that I did a couple of days ago. That was 17 minutes long, and I was able to output the upload file in about 9 minutes and 10 seconds on this computer, on the new MacBook, versus 27 minutes on the old one. So you can see what a difference 4 years makes when you pay just about the same amount of money for the same computer, essentially. You get a lot more performance, and that's the kind of stuff that's really going to benefit me a lot on the road. Now, the one thing you should not be buying a Mac for is playing games, for a couple of reasons. One is that there's not as many games available on Mac OS as there are on Windows, but also because the Mac ports of those Windows games often don't perform as well. So I've got Rocket League loaded up here right now. You can see the settings that I applied to the game, something I would typically apply on a gaming laptop or a laptop with a GPU built in. As I resume the game here, you can see the frame rate we're getting is about, it's hard to see in the upper left-hand corner there, but it's about 45 to 50 frames per second. So we're not getting terrific performance out of this thing, even though we've got a pretty beefy GPU. And I think that's probably largely in part to the port of this game on the Mac. It doesn't have the optimizations that you would typically find in Windows. Now, you can run Windows on these devices. I'm going to try to get Windows installed on here and do some more benchmarking with it and see how it really stacks up against another computer that's also running Windows, but I really would not buy this if your intent is to play games. Now, I did run a cross-platform benchmark called Geekbench, which I used to measure the GPU performance on this device, and I compared it to the Dell XPS 15 that we looked at a couple of months ago, which is similarly configured. It's got a modern Skylake processor and an NVIDIA GTX 960M GPU, and we got 56,591 on that test on the MacBook Pro and 48,852 on the Dell. My old MacBook Pro got a score of 13,336. On the graph here, you can link to more detailed reports on each of these machines to see exactly how it performed in different areas. This is an OpenCL test that measures a whole bunch of different things that the GPU is capable of doing and then aggregates a score. So I think on the gameplay side, and we'll test this out when I get Windows going going on this thing. I think the Dell will do better at games than this will do, but we'll do a test later on and see for sure how all that works out. But again, not the best for gaming, but very good for professional work, which is what I intend to do with it. So that's the new MacBook Pro 15. I'm going to come back in a couple of days with a dongle survival guide to kind of give you some more guidance as to how to get devices connected to your computer that you're using with your current device. I've got one dongle here already. This is my Thunderbolt to Thunderbolt 3 adapter, because I have a dock down there on the floor that I use for connecting up my network and video to my TriCaster, and I have the old Thunderbolt connector here. I had to buy this dongle, which then plugs right into the MacBook. The good news is that worked, but we'll have to test some more stuff out and see some of the cables you might need to be able to live with this computer. I don't think it's going to be as bad as you're hearing about, but it will require some thought and probably some investment. But we'll be back more with this very shortly, and this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by my Patreon supporters, including gold level supporter Eric. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.